volunteer!
I need a volunteer.
I need a volunteer.
I'm starting. I need a volunteer.
Hey y'all, Tom here, ND3N, and welcome to my little shack in the corner for a ham shack chat. This time I want to talk about volunteering. FCC Part 97 contains the rules and regulations concerning the amateur radio service. Part 97.1, right up in front, the very first thing you see, defines the basis and purpose for ham radio, and it, in part, states recognition and enhancement of the value of the amateur service to the public as a voluntary, non-commercial communication service, particularly with respect to providing emergency communications. From this, we can infer that the main reason the government keeps us around is for the service we can provide to our neighbors, our communities, our states, and federal government agencies. So in this video, I'll be discussing how to be a volunteer. Now, let's talk about emergency communications. As you can tell by the term emergency, these kinds of communications require specialized training. The two main ones that are out there are ARIES and RACIES. Now, you could talk to your club's emergency communication coordinator to get the training necessary to participate in either of these. If your club doesn't have an emergency communications guy, they'll certainly have one like at the state level. So that's a place you can go to. Now, I put out a video a couple of months ago actually regarding these organizations, and I'll put a link down in the video description if you'd like to go see it. Maybe I'll stick it up in the corner as well. Another one that requires specialized training is Skywarn, which is run by the National Weather Service and is active during emergency weather conditions. Now, my main concern is not with any of these emergency communication groups.
Wait, what?
But rather how you can provide your skills to your local community in non-emergency conditions. In every community, there are a number of opportunities to provide your skills in support. And maybe you have an annual holiday parade, and they could use some help with organizing the different parts of the parade or directing the crowd. Maybe you have a local runners club that sponsors an annual marathon where you can be stationed at a first aid station or along the route to report back to the organizers any potential problems. So you could do the same thing with your local bicycle riding club. Eventually they're all going to want to take a 200-mile ride someday. You can be there for that. Now, if your community has an annual summer fair, you could ask the organizers if they need any help. Several years ago, I helped a local church that put on a fair of sorts. It was a group of us that helped direct people to different activities. Now, the high point of our support was when we found a lost child who had wandered off from her parents. These are only a few suggestions off the top of my head. I'm sure you can think of a few more without a whole lot of effort. Now, about this time, you're asking yourself, or asking me, hey, Tom, do you really expect me to go out and do all of that? Well, the simple answer is no. Organizing stuff at this level is best done in a group. Fortunately, most of you probably already have a group ready to deal with it. And I'm talking about your local ham radio club. Now, over the years, I've belonged to several ham radio clubs. I've held officer positions with them, including club president. Now, like any social organization, the unfortunate standard rule of thumb is that 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Your club may already have a group that does community volunteer organization. Because of that, the 80-20 rule, this group will be more than happy to add you to their numbers. If your club doesn't have a group like this, you can approach the club leadership and ask if you can help form one. Now, I can't tell you how frustrating it is to stand in front of a club meeting asking for help and hearing nothing but crickets. However, I can tell you how good it feels when someone does volunteer. A good example is field day. Everyone in the club wants a field day, but finding people, even in a large club, to organize that field day, well, it's like pulling teeth. Now, I digress.
Way to get us back on topic, Marge.
So, what's required for community support within amateur radio? Well, you'll probably need a VHF FM radio. Depending on the type of event, this could either be an HT or a mobile rig. You'll need to decide whether working simplex or through a repeater would be appropriate. Now, as a side note, if you determine that using a local repeater would be best, make sure you have permission from the repeater owner or control operator to use their repeater during the support times. Don't just assume it's going to be available. You'll also need things like spare batteries, a communication plan where you determine how best to provide your support. And that kind of goes with the old thing, failing to plan is planning to fail. So let's not fail to plan. And some method of identifying yourself, such as it could be as simple as a t-shirt or a hat. I like some of those orange vests that you wear. I've got a couple of them, and they're fairly cheap. You'll also want to have an understanding with the event organizers about your roles and responsibilities within the event. They may have vastly different opinions on what you are there for, so that needs to be laid out right in the front. I would recommend a letter signed by them, but at the very least, have a conversation. They need to understand that you're not there as police or security, but as an adjunct to their own communications. Now, one last reminder, by FCC regulations, we are there to support not-for-profit organizations. We cannot support any organization that is making a profit from their event. Now, this can be a thin line to walk, but if they're charging an entry fee to raise money for a non-profit reason, to support their charity or organization, non-profit organization, you're probably okay. If they're charging an entry fee to earn money for their organization, like say a professional sports team or a off-road racing team, then it's definitely not okay. You'll really need to talk to the experts in the field. Maybe your club has a lawyer in it that could answer that question, or the ARRL does have lawyers available to answer that kind of question. Volunteering to help out in your local community can be very rewarding. It certainly won't put any money in your pocket, but it'll still warm your heart. It's also a great way to advertise for amateur radio. So be prepared to answer questions about amateur radio and provide contact information for any upcoming classes or test sessions. Now, thanks for dropping by my little shack in the corner for a ham shack chat about volunteering. I hope that I've encouraged you to volunteer your skills and experience as a ham in support of community events. Not because the FCC say they want you to, or from any peer pressure within your club, or from me, just because I recommended it. You got to be your own guy. I encourage you to volunteer because, in my experience, it will make you feel more involved in your community and in our shared hobby. Please give me a like by popping that thumbs up icon. Please share this content with friends who might appreciate it, and on ham-related social media like Facebook groups and stuff like that. Please leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about this video. And if I can be of any assistance in helping you find a way to volunteer, I will be happy to do that. As always, at your service, I'm Tom, ND3N, 7-3 until the next time, and I'm out.